Baby, welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast after dark. Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, cracking some cold ones here on your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I've got my nice piss beer here with no carbonation. My dear friend, what are you drinking on tonight?
I found this in the back of our fridge. It's a watermelon high noon.
Okay.
Look, I know it's not, of course, our favorite, Four Peaks, of course, our beer sponsor, but it's getting the job done here on a Tuesday night. Look at you. Is that room temperature? You probably want to get that
It's display
iced.
Purposes only. I will not drink it. Now, fair warning, I had a pumpkin porter here for a while, and I drank at room temperature. And I, depends how smooth this goes down. I might go to my emergency supply, but awesome to see everybody in the chat, crushing it as always. Welcome, Cardinal Sin 96. Mikey, what's up? Chase, we're going to dabble in some of these late night pods over the course of the season. Bo Brock, maybe talk a little draft, but I thought we'd open the show today talking about Jonathan Gannon, our boy. We love JG. We had a chance to chat with him at the NFL Combine. We're hopeful for JG. However, we're transparent on this podcast. This team has not been good in the second half of these first two games, specifically in the fourth quarter. And if you kind of read between the tea leaves of the Super Bowl last year, a lot of people want to connect the dots of, well, he's got 3 or 4 straight collapses in the second half. I'm not willing to call them collapses. I think the Cardinals situation is very different than what we saw with Philadelphia. However, Bo Brock, it is going to be troublesome if this trend continues, because what do we always talk about? Halftime adjustments, right? Fair or not, talent or not, Gannon's going to be judged on that.
Yeah, sure. And call it fair or call it unfair at this stage in his new role as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, his coordinators, Nick Rallis on the defensive side and Drew Petzing on the offensive side, who have had their respective roles in the collapses, or whatever you want to call them, their downfall in each and every the last 2 fourth quarters. It's the lumps that you're taking with a new coaching staff, with a new roster, with a new regime in a rebuilding team. I think that's just the ugly reality of it. And from what I heard today from Drew Petzing and Nick Rallis, and what I heard from Jonathan Gannon, was they're not just going to take that as, well, it is what it is, we move forward, or got to coach better, the old whatever, the words that were put in place, over and over again from the previous coaching staff, where I heard, from Rallis for sure today, a coach that is approaching the collapse the appropriate way going forward. And, they're not getting too high. They're not getting too low. They're not overreacting. They're not saying, well, they just had an unbelievable amount of momentum on the offensive side of the football. Like, this coaching staff flat out doesn't even believe in momentum. I mean, they understand that if you make a play, you can put a pin in that momentum is as much as it's rolling. And I like that. I like that they're staying even keel. We talked about kind of the demeanor of Jonathan Gannon on the sidelines. He's not going to freak out, or he hasn't freaked out just yet. He said in an article, as far as, he hasn't felt overwhelmed a day on the job yet. And I think that continues to be the case, despite what their record shows and how they got there the last 2 weeks.
I like this comment from Jessica. If we go 0-17, then the pressure on him seems pretty accurate, but now not yet. And I agree with that. And I also think listen, at the end of the day, these first two games were the most likely wins on the schedule for a hot minute, right? Washington, I know that line got ridiculously out of hand, 7.5 to kick off the season, Bo. But like most people with a brain, common sense would say, hey, we don't know what we're getting with the Cardinals. They could overperform here. I saw a lot of sharps in the betting scene say that, and they did. They did overperform. They covered. And then last week, winnable game at home, 4-point spread against the Giants. I got back down to -4 in Vegas. And then they're playing at home in front of the home crowd. Like there were expectations from the fan base, not only to have a good showing, but potentially win those games. That's gone now. Like they're a 13-point underdog this week against the Dallas Cowboys. I would imagine it's going to be something similar when they go to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. I think the expectations are going to be much more tempered, which will hopefully allow this team to fly under the radar if that's possible. Now, again, if you start stacking up losses and you're looking at 0-8, 0-9, 0-10, that's very difficult. And people start having another conversation, which we touched on yesterday. But I do think in the short term, Gannon, second half, miscues, like it's weird going into games leading at half. Can I say that? Because so many instances last year, I can't recall in any of the wins outside of maybe the LA Rams game when they beat the Rams on the road, wins in terms they were leading at halftime and they followed through, right? We know what the Raiders against Cliff Kingsbury and company last year, they had to come back and rally in the fourth quarter. I mean, against the Saints on Thursday Night Football, they were leading, but it got close at the end. To me, it's like the Cardinals don't win comfortable games. They haven't in quite some time, right? And so because of JG's reputation after the Super Bowl, which is ridiculous. Kyle Shanahan has a reputation following his, NFC Championship game. He couldn't win the big one. He just continues to go to NFC title games and Super Bowls with the 49ers. So I do think at the end of the day, Bo, it's going to be something that is tempered, at least now, because of this pivotal stretch. Now, do they reconvene? Does it rear its ugly head like midseason when Kyler's back and you're playing that soft portion of the schedule with Houston and some of those teams? Maybe, but if the Cardinals end up winning against the Niners, the Cowboys, or the Cincinnati Bengals, like it won't matter what it looks like. It'll be the biggest upset on NFL weekend easily, and nobody will be talking about this.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And, at the same time, I think I preach patience. If they drop those 3 games and they fall to 0-5, after 2 weeks, it's natural for fans to feel disappointed, especially when you felt like you had a win in your grasp in back-to-back weeks. But, it's important to remember, how many variables at play and how many of those variables are going up with a brand new coaching staff and a brand new team for that matter. And, when you see what we've witnessed over the last 2 weeks, the competitive games, I think that they indicate potential from this team, potential from this coaching staff to even have had leads in those 2 games with this roster. What was the expectation? Now, I know that you and I push back on the national media, narrative around this team, but the expectation was that this team wasn't going to be competitive, and they've been more than competitive. They've held leads through 3 quarters of both games. And they relinquished them, and it was brutal, and it sucked. It sucked just as bad as it did when there were heavy expectations on this team. But I think what they were able to prove is that they can hang. And, after 2 games where the disappointment of a loss certainly was there, it was also encouragement, right? That these coaches are at some point, they're going to learn from these mistakes and they're going to put it together and they're going to not make the same mistakes twice. And they're going to where they had, 3 consecutive 3-and-outs, right? Or on 4th and 11, they let Daniel Jones or whatever quarterback get out and get a big, drive continuing first down that was backbreaking and kept them on life support and then ended up winning that game. Those are going to change, and the players are going to have that memory and that muscle memory, and they're going to, I talked to Nick Rallis today and I asked him, are you going to be able to apply the adversity that you learned from this past weekend to next weekend? And he basically said, at some point, right, you're going to learn from that, but not immediately. Like, we're not going to just have a knee-jerk reaction and completely change what we're doing. Like, we like what we've done defensively. They certainly have to like what they did through 6 quarters to start the season. They're not just going to completely change who they are, but they're going to make some tweaks. They're obviously going to have some personnel changes, already starting to kind of figure out what the path forward is without Budda Baker for the next couple of weeks. But, I understand the disappointment, but you have to really believe and be encouraged by what you've seen. Now, here's what Nick Rallis had to say, and this is where, I think I'll kind of hang on this. Producer Damon, this was Nick Rallis kind of talking about how everybody's kind of come together after these 2 losses.
The cool thing is yesterday, like, from the coaches to the players, it was complete ownership. It wasn't thinking about could have been, what should have, could have, would have. It was, how do I have to do my job better so that we can learn how to finish that game, right? And so don't look at that as a woe is me type of experience or situation. Look at it as a learning experience, to where when you get in that situation, you have to finish that game. And hopefully we've learned our lesson on what we have to do to capitalize and come out with a win.
You got to love that, Johnny. I mean, it shows that there is a commitment to improving. And I don't know if that was necessarily in that building the previous couple seasons. I think that
no,
it wasn't. I mean, they would say some, maybe even a cliche or stock response. We got to coach better. We got to play better. We got to execute better. Where it's just like, it really seems like this team, they're getting in the film room and they're not dwelling on, where they fell short, but they're thinking about, hey, how can we continue the positives and how can we move forward from these 2 losses?
Anybody want to check and see how the Denver Broncos defense is holding up with old Vance Joseph? I think they were like 2nd or 3rd to last in DVOA for defense. I mean, good luck, man. I'll take Nick Rallis 10 out of 10 times. I got a text message with somebody close to the Cardinals at the halftime point when it was 20-0, and basically said, like, let's enjoy Nick Rallis while he's here, because he's not gonna be here for very long. And I get it; they collapsed in the second half. I still think he's a budding star and a future head coach in this league, and I think the Cardinals understand that. And that's not slander at Drew Petzing, but I mean, Rallis was the one. Philadelphia wanted to keep him. Gannon was able to court him here, and they just I think it's a combination of inexperience and talent. But here's what I thought was interesting today, Bo. As I was painting the Twitter streets, I saw something and I confirmed it on a couple different betting sites. Was that, how many Cardinal predicted wins they had before the season? It was about 4.5, right? How many wins they're projected for this year, even after these first 2 losses? 4. So that's in a weird way Vegas saying, like, Cardinals weren't ever going to win these games. So it's frustrating for me as somebody who said they'll overachieve 6-7 wins this year. Like, Vegas basically said, like, that was your opportunity to do that. It's a long season. Things change. People get injured. People come back, and Kyler Murray. But this is, as frustrating as that was, this is part of the plan. This is part of what everybody speculated in terms of the sharps, people in Vegas saying, like, Cardinals were not going to win those first 2 games of the season. And I think a lot of that is tied to the inexperience, the fact that you don't have K1 right now, that nobody assumed that you were going to do anything. And so I'm cautiously optimistic, especially with what we touched on yesterday's show. Like, there's one thing to lose circa 2022 second half, and you're playing the Ben Niemans of the world and AJ Green. Like, you can lose like that and literally light development on fire. These games, I don't want to say they're meaningless, but they're borderline meaningless. That's why this show was low-key talking about draft positioning in December. But, like, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, Paris Johnson Jr., Keitrell Clark, all playing significant snaps. Zaven Collins had a half a sack. Like, young players developing, that's what this season's about. And hopefully the wins come as a result. But, I mean, I'm so impressed with the young players on this team. And I hope that, like, I was looking up Michael Wilson projected stats. He's projected for like 700 yards. It'd be a hell of a rookie season. Paris Johnson Jr., we talked about it yesterday, 0 quarterback hits. Is that good? You like those kind of stats? Or would you rather have, I don't know, DJ Humphries redshirting his first year? For me, you want to be able to take about 10 guys at the end of the year, 10 to 12, and say, these are lock starters. Some of them have Pro Bowl aspirations, and then go into the offseason, spend a little coin, right, and have 12 draft picks next April. That's what this season is about. Whereas where Keim and Cliff and company set you up for failure was, how many known quantities in their like mid-20s did the Cardinals have on their team exiting last season? Like 1 or 2 maybe? Like that's about it. Like K1 coming off an injury, and Budda Baker's in his late 20s and he's about to turn 30 years old. Like Isaiah Simmons,
come on,
commodity.
He's got far.
What is he? 27, 28? I'm sorry.
Bro. Yeah. He's got a couple more years. He's got a couple more prime years before he's in his 30s. But I mean, I think if they pulled out one of those 2 wins, I think it would have been a signature dub. It would have been, hey, we're ahead of schedule. We're not, this just, hey, anybody could show up and beat this team.
Right.
But but I think they also proved that, hey, if you don't come in and you play up to your best capabilities and you turn the ball over, we're going to take advantage of that. But to really take a look at all the variables that they had at play, Kyler Murray out, new coaching staff, churn the roster as much as you possibly could from one regime to the next, and then also make the mistake that I both agree on, that why couldn't they get Dobbs in here March instead of 2 weeks before the season opener? If you have him up
the offseason.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. But with all those at play, to be as competitive as they have, it has to give you some hope that this team is going to surprise people and then continue on that trajectory. And then, this is why I wasn't too concerned. Obviously you want to see your team win, right? And it is disappointing to see them come out on the wrong end and suffer the setbacks that they did, and obviously deal with the injuries that they have. I mean, being down to Budda Baker, you can't discount that at all. But when you look at some of the blueprints, right, that have rebuilding teams and have made their way forward and through the muck and on the other side and kind of gotten out into the sunshine and out of the mud and the rain, it's like the Detroit Lions, right? That was a team that was 0-10-1 at one point before they won their first game, and then won their second game where they blew the doors off of the Arizona Cardinals in Detroit, right? And they gained some momentum at the end of the season, and something that this organization hasn't experienced for so long is success at the end of the year. And I think it's more important to have success at the end of the year than right now. Like, I think if you can get that momentum going and parlay it into a good offseason, and then at this point next year, you're going to have a lot higher expectations and say, hey, you can't lose to the Commanders. You can't lose to the Giants when you're up 20-0.
Cliff didn't win games late in the year. What?
Never.
Oh, man. We love him. We love him dearly. We'd love all of you to go make some free money here with our friends at BetMGM. How about bet 10, get $200, folks? Sign up with the bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook waiver through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile application of at least $10, 10 bones. You're going to receive $200 in bonus bets instantly in any winning, regardless of the wager's outcome. So, I mean, again, if you like free money, go do that right now. Grab your mobile phone, smart device in 4 easy steps. Download the app, BetMGM Sportsbook, or visit them at betmgm.com. Sign up with, you guessed it, bonus code PHNX. It's just $10, guys. $200 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager, to do with what you want. I got some bonus bets immediately following my big gaff last Thursday, betting money on Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I promptly blew it on women's tennis, but again, you guys be better judgment of character than I am. I was chasing that night, right? I was going for heavy favorites. It didn't work out, but it's going to work out with you with PHNX as your promo code. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to our guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
Still have confidence that the future is bright for this organization, especially with Jonathan Gannon at the helm and Monty Ossenfort, the one as the architect, so bright that they'll want to take advantage, of course, the best deal of the season at ShadyRays.com. And, of course, their Kierland store in North Scottsdale. Go there, use the code PHNX. You don't have to whisper it to the sales associate. Just tell them PHNX, and they'll give you this deal, 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized shades from Shady Rays, premium polarized shades that are built to last, and they look just like those brand name sunglasses, but better, right? And they're not going to cost you an arm and a leg. They're going to cost you under $100. Each and every price point is well under $100. Take advantage of it, and take advantage of that promo code PHNX. Save 50% on premium polarized sunglasses from Shady Rays at ShadyRays.com.
We love Shady Rays. I wear mine all the time to work out, to drive around, and they are the premier sunglasses for not a premier price. So pick them up right now. I can't wait to get to their location, Bo, in Scottsdale. I heard it's elite.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. Talk to the assistant GM there, He was speaking more truth than the wacko in our chat, saying that the Arizona Cardinals are going to get relegated. Can we stop that nonsense? It's the NFL. They are not going to remove one of the biggest markets in media markets.
There are bad teams every year.
Yeah, there are. It's just reality. Quit trying to
we got 15 more Cardinals
fans.
Exactly. I mean, my son told me after the game, he goes, "I wasted 3 hours of my life, Dad, watching that." I said, "Hey, buckle up. Welcome to the show. Welcome to be a Cardinal fan, my guy." He was living large. It was 20-0. Life comes at you fast.
It does.
That's why we love this team. So again, you had a chance to chat with Drew Petzing and company. Something I thought was interesting. I thought maybe they'd make a move at left guard this week. Elijah Wilkinson has been a big stinker. He's not been good. With 30 PFF grade each of the last 2 weeks at left guard. But then the more I think about it, it's like, number one, they want continuity when Kyler Murray comes back up front. They don't want to be interchanging people. And then additionally, Bo, like, I don't think we can discount how big of an injury like John Gaines was and your boy from Tennessee. Like Dennis Daly, they lost their 6th and 7th offensive lineman that had some versatility. Yelder Froholt played better, but Elijah Wilkinson, man, like he's got to improve. Or I don't know, do they go and pluck somebody off a practice squad? What are they going to do there?
I mean, Marquise Hayes is somebody that, I think the fan base is optimistic about as he continues to return from the knee injury he suffered last preseason. And Chase, put your super chat that we missed yesterday in the chat. We'll make sure to get to that.
Yep.
But I was the one that asked Petzing that about the offensive line, because it was kind of like, hey, any thoughts on maybe making a change at left guard? I mean, he unfortunately he said no. He's excited about the group. He liked how they played as a complete unit. And you look at it. I mean, Wilkinson was by far, the guy that was the least impactful. And now it's back-to-back games and back-to-back performances, and it's on tape, right? And you see it as far as the grades, and that's where PFF is going off of. And you can take it with a grain of salt, but you can also watch, James Conner try to, take the air out of the football late in the game, and he runs to Elijah Wilkinson's side and Zach Ertz's side, and they can't move people out of the way in order to get yards and put themselves in second and third manageable. And you're seeing back-to-back penalties from Wilkinson. I can't imagine that he's playing on that long of a leash going forward. But as of right now, they're going to move with the continuity from the offense that put up 28 points last game.
Cardinals offensive line, like advanced metrics from our friends at PFF, they're pretty average. They're relatively average. But then you do like a deep dive. They've given up 3 sacks, and that was all in the first game. Like, they're projected this year to be a middle-of-the-pack group, which is what we thought before the season. Like, this is one of the better units on this team. And so I understand if they don't want to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, the more I thought about it, it's like, how many times did Kyler Murray have to endure consistent upheaval and rotation of guys on the offensive line? Like, I know K1 is personally counting the days, not only till he can play, but to play with Paris Johnson Jr., who we've talked about immense. But Will Hernandez is having a really good year. Like that, in hindsight, Cardinals didn't make a lot of moves in March, Bo. Locking him up on a modest 2-year contract. He's somebody, I mean, if he can finish this year healthy, knock on wood, like he'll be brought back next year. Yelder Froholt is very much like a week-to-week project. Week 1, not very good. This past week, I was looking at some of the all-22. He looked good, especially in the run game. I think this team wants to be, I know, a run-dominant team. The problem is I think you are limited with what you can do because of the left side. Humphreys is old, right? And then Wilkinson himself is liability. And then, as you mentioned, like Ertz is over 30. Trey McBride, to me, and we talked about it, and I will continue to harp on this, is somebody that needs to be not only showcased in this offense, but let's call a spade a spade. He needs to be featured as the tight end number 1. I know it's only 2 weeks, but the explosiveness, his breaks, his run blocking, he's been cheated out of 2 big gainers each of the first 2 weeks because of penalties that are not his fault. 85 is one of the blossoming young targets that we hoped it would happen. They need to get him more involved. Did Petzing have anything to say about Trey Day today?
Yeah, I asked about Trey McBride because not only did he shine in the passing game in his few opportunities, but he also was a guy that stood out in the run game early on. And he was a guy that was on the field, I felt like, more often, at least to start, than Zach Ertz. And he was out there probably because of his blocking prowess, moving guys around. And, Petzing was pretty plain and simple. He thinks that Trey McBride's playing at a high level, and they're going to continue to move forward with him and get him more incorporated. And him and Michael Wilson, it's just going to come down to opportunities. But so far, so good. They've liked what they've seen. And I think the fan base is asking for some more. I mean, look at the end of the day, though. I mean, Zach Ertz has 18 targets in 2 games. It's unbelievable. Zach Ertz, I think, has some of the most targets, if not the most targeted tight end in the NFL right now with 18, which is unbelievable.
That's too many. Can we just say it's too many? He had 10 in week 1.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, they like
and
two
then
tight ends.
8 last week. Yeah.
It's hard for me to complain and bitch about it, Bo, because they're going north and south. They're running the football and they're going downfield. And I love that. There hasn't been one Rondell Moore screen pass this year, knock on wood. But they're starting to spread it out a little bit. Like Michael Wilson and Hollywood Brown and Trey got their targets. Ertz needs to be living in like the 5 range in terms of targets, like 4 or 5 catches a game. Because again, you're so limited with what he can do after the catch. And he can't, I mean, that play, I know it was on Dobbs. He couldn't put the ball right on the money when Ertz was streaming down the sideline, but like, if that's Trey McBride, he probably catches up to that ball. Am I being naive to think that, or am I putting too much on Zach Ertz there?
No, I don't think that's unfair. I mean, Ertz coming off the injury that he came off of, but absolutely they were spreading the ball around. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, if you look at the final box, I mean, Wilson 56, Ertz 56, Marquise Brown 54, Trey McBride 32, and they had 20. All 4 or 5 of those guys had 20 yards like early in that game. Like he was spreading it early and often, and the offense just like a completely different product. And you have to be encouraged by that. Obviously, it didn't end how you wanted to do, and they got to put together the full 60 minutes going forward. And offensively and defensively, that's going to take a collective effort, and obviously do it on special teams as well. But yeah, I mean, I think incorporating and getting those young bucks, your first-year receiver and Michael Wilson, and your second-year tight end Trey McBride involved, I think it's only going to be a positive for this offense.
I've got Chase's super chat from yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and read that now. Thank you so much, Chase, for the super chat. Build success by having consistent off seasons like Monty had this year. Build over time. We're in the long game now. Spending money in free agency won't fix this. And of course, that was with regard to the conversation at hand yesterday. I was complaining. I wish they would have spent just a little bit more in free agency to withstand some of the issues that they're having right now. But
to sum it up, I was right yesterday. You were wrong.
No, I think
that what Chase was saying.
I think that I feel better today than I did yesterday. Yeah, it was a tough day yesterday. I don't think anybody come on the show in the chat on this show and say that yesterday was not a difficult day. 20-0 lead, 28-7. You got to come to a podcast. Those are not days we relish. I was looking forward to our first Victory Monday in 9 months, and that was stolen from me, and I got emotional. It was an emotional time for your boy.
You were wearing your emotions on your sleeve, and that's why we love our guy JV.
It was a tough day.
Glad to get that in. I think it's a great point, Chase. Thanks for the super chat yesterday. Apologies for having to get to it a day late, but we love to take care of our friends over here at join us, whether it's at the 4:30 usual start time or the 7 o'clock after dark start time. It's always good to talk some Cards football.
You might want to put it on your calendar as some mandatory programming a week from today. Talk a little college football draft with Johnny and Bo potentially in studio at this time next week. So more information coming on that. How about this? It was a great day, according to Jordan P. Johnny, we need that number 1 pick. Well, I've got something to showcase to you, my friend Jordan P. But before we do that, to kind of quench your thirst there, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Factor Meal. So Factor Meal, they are fantastic. I've done a lot of meal plan services. Shameless plug. I try to eat well, but sometimes it's tough, right? So I need somebody, just tell me what to do. But I don't have a ton of time to make food. I'm prepping the show. I'm hanging with the kids, right? Doing your thing. My wife's got 1,000 things going on. We just want something simple and easy. Try Factor Meals. How about 2 minutes? They're ready to eat in the microwave. In the oven takes 10 minutes. It's like gourmet stuff, right? It feels like somebody prepped it in my kitchen for 45 minutes to an hour, and then boom, it's ready to go. By the way, their smoothie game is on point. They're fantastic. Like the banana smoothie is great. They've got a chocolate cake smoothie. Factor Meals, my favorite meal service I've done them all. Name one, I've done them all. Factor Meals is at the top of the list, and we're gonna hook you up, by the way. Already super cheap, and we're going to give you 50% off from there. Factormeals.com/PHNX. You're going to get 50% off. That's Factormeals.com/PHNX. Here's the code. Everybody go write it down. It's PHNX Cards 50 for 50% off. That's PHNX Cards 50. Factormeals.com. It's a robust selection. I'm on the website for like 45 minutes to an hour prepping my next week's order. It's the only thing time consuming is figuring out what you want to eat, not how you're going to eat it with Factor meals.
Remember, you thought you were a fancy boy because you would put your Factor in the oven and you were just completely wasting time. You're like, ooh, I eat my Factor from the oven. I am not just a savage and put it in the microwave like you and producer Damon or producer Emma at the time. You thought that we were just like these
Then I tried the microwave and I'm just like, here's 8 minutes of my life I can have back to do.
Yeah, research. You can. And I also heard that one of the food giveaways or food delivery services, wasn't it like, was it Basic Boy, where you would just get all pumpkin flavored things? Like
you're I'm over this late night show. You're too loosey goosey. I'm not button it up. Yeah.
All right. I will I'll button it up and then immediately unbutton it with our friends over at Wink. I love what Wink is doing. Obviously, seltzers are so popular right now. Yeah. Of course, it's got alcohol. Not this one. It's got THC and just a wink of THC. Check out Summer's latest ice cold beverage to have when you're going out and playing. It's the perfect THC to CBD balance, that golden ratio that everybody's looking for, that equal dose of CBD, THC. It's a laid-back friend. Hang out with a light and social, bubbly enough to work the room. Wink. Also check out Wink's sister product, Countdown. Get ready for liftoff and buckle up for the nano emulsion of cannabis-infused beverage that delivers a sky-high blast with powerful flavor. Available in 7 states, including Arizona. Doesn't that sound badass? You can only get it in 7 states. It's like they're running moonshine across the border, but instead it's at your dispensary where you can find 2.5 milligram and 5 milligram cans of Wink and Countdown right here in Arizona at Sunday Goods Dispensary in the Valley and Botanica Dispensary in Tucson. Find out more at drinkwink.com. That's DRINKWYNK.com.
Super chat, another one. Deuce in the chat, $5. I know we're mad that we lost 2 games, but we're also competitive, which we weren't before. I just want to see if we can score against Dallas. I think they will score against Dallas. I think Dallas, most of the time, and this is a byproduct of the huge spread, is that, Dallas gets to play the Jets last week. They play the Cardinals. Like, you have to get up for your opponents. And I think that's part of the reason why the Giants struggled in the first half. They're sitting people thinking we can just wait until San Francisco next Thursday to crank up the intensity. Like, I don't think the Cardinals are going to get blown out. I think this is going to be a single score game or a single digit game. I don't think it's going to hit 13.5. I could be wrong, Bo Brock, but nothing that leads me to believe, based on how they played these first 2 weeks, and they do get to play at home, that they're just going to roll over and die on Sunday.
Yeah, I think at some point, the Dallas Cowboys have to be challenged. And, the Dallas Cowboys, we hear, cliches all the time about trap games, right? And I think New York obviously almost ran into one against the Cardinals last week. And Dallas has not really faced too much adversity through 2 weeks of football. You've seen a pretty clean game on both sides of the football. And Dak Prescott hasn't been put in any real tough situations. We've seen him been able to kind of not have to do too much for this offense to be successful. I heard a stat that he's like at the top of the NFL as far as only 8% of his passes are not, I guess considered accurate or as an accurate pass. And he's rolling, but he's also not throwing the ball deep and hasn't had to throw the ball deep because, Tony Pollard and that run game has been stout and that defense has just been balling out. So, if the Arizona Cardinals can play relatively mistake-free football, they can put themselves in a position to be competitive in this game. And then also Nick Rallis and his side of the football have to really change things up from the second half. They have to stop the bleeding, and it has to start right out of the gates. But, both or all 3 phases have to be prepared to compete for 60 minutes, because if you think like Washington or New York, they were 2 teams that were able to capitalize on that. It's going to be, and then some, the next 2 weeks against 2 better franchises right now in the NFC in Dallas and San Francisco.
Z Professor, thank you so much. $2 super chat. Hypothetically speaking, what if, gasp, we win this weekend, Bo Brock? I'm going to be really happy for the players and Jonathan Gannon and the rest of the coaching staff. I, in the grand scheme of things, it may not mean a lot, but every win matters, especially in a year like this, for confidence, for team building, for development. It would be great. Be great for the city too, especially to stick it to all the Cowboys that unfortunately are going to take over potentially State Farm Stadium on Sunday. I mean, Cardinal fans are due for multiple wins, but I mean, one against Dallas would feel special. I was at the game in Dallas when Kyler Murray went off in week 16 a couple of years ago to get them into the postseason, Bo, and he's throwing touchdowns to Antonio Wesley with no DeAndre Hopkins, and it was a special performance. And it is a shame, kind of a sub bullet to this game, is that you don't get Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray, of course, undefeated against Dallas, has never lost a game in their stadium dating back to high school. That's always a special dynamic, especially when you consider like CeeDee Lamb is going to play in this game, super high level receiver right now in the NFL. So maybe Josh Dobbs can do his best Kyler Murray against Dallas impression on Sunday. It's asking a lot.
I mean, 2-0 in their last two chances against Dallas. One was a Monday night game where they blew the doors off Andy Dalton.
It was one of the greatest games in the Kingsbury era.
Wasn't it? Kyler completed 9 passes and they won 38-10.
But it was like bombs to Christian Kirk, and the defense played really well. It was like McCarthy's first year when coincidentally, they looked a lot like the Cardinals right now. But I mean, Kyler Murray against the Cowboys, there's just something different that lights up in that young man. And we're robbed of that this year. Maybe next year, I'd love to see Kyler Murray versus Dak Prescott postseason matchup in the NFC playoffs. Playoffs probably have to wait this year. You never know, but we'll see. Probably got to wait. But what does that mean for the Cardinals betting odds as it relates to the number 1 overall pick? And if you can believe it, Bo Brock, even after 2 weeks, the landscape of who's going to be picking first overall has changed, and it's changed really for 2 franchises. It is a 2-team race as we are 2 weeks in. Damon Dog, roll the graphic, my dude. So odds to get the number 1 overall pick 2024 through their pick or somebody else's pick. 39% the Arizona Cardinals, 33% for the Chicago Bears. If you remember, Chicago owns Carolina's pick. Carolina looks like ass right now. They don't look ready at all. Bryce Young looks completely overwhelmed. Remember, people were comparing Bryce Young to Kyler Murray. Yeah, good luck with that. And then I honestly think, the Broncos, I don't think they have a first round pick next year. Somebody said that's the odds to get it. And then the Giants at 4%, which I don't buy, and the Vikings at 5.6%, I don't buy. So what do you think about these odds? Pretty wild.
Now, obviously, the Cardinals are combined with their Houston pick that they own, right? Because I saw them split, and I think Houston's odds were higher than the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes.
So the Cardinals are third with their very own pick as far as the percentage to get the number 1 overall pick. And our friends over at CHGO Bears, my God, we need to do a daily wellness check on our friends over there, Adam Hogue and our guy Carm, and as far as what's going on and how, Braggs. I mean, Braggs for sure. Then you show me that he spent $30 on Taco Bell. This guy needs some desperate help right now because of how poorly that offense has performed out of the gates. And Justin Fields just does not look the part as far as an NFL passer. But
he's clearing his system literally and figuratively of this bad karma with $30 worth of Taco Bell. I was wrong too. Denver has their first round pick next year, but yeah, that times are tough in Chicago. How would you like to be the regime that hired Matt Eberflus? I mean, that is he the worst coach in the NFL right now? I think he is.
I think so.
I think he's the worst coach in the NFL.
I mean, there are similarities from the coaching staff that we witnessed last year in this Bears staff where they're just not prepared. They just aren't, on the offensive side of the football. They're just doing things that just makes you scratch your head. And, it's coming from a novice's eye, right? Like we don't know ball like these coaches know, and they're just making big time mistakes. And then the decision-making on the field, it just compounds everything. It's a brutal product to watch, and they have to get better quick. And do they possess the ability, especially from the coaching standpoint, to get them where they need to go? And I think that people who are skeptical over that, I can see why.
They're already asking the question, did they make a mistake with Darnell Wright over somebody like Jalen Carter? And Wright's actually been pretty solid with them. I like to try to watch some of these other tackles, Bo Brock, in this draft class last year. Paris, I think, is the budding star of the group. But Wright's been pretty solid. He's got he's a better run blocker. He's like 75 PFF grade run blocker. He struggles with pass pro, but I actually think their offensive line.
They struggle with passing.
They can't throw the ball. I mean, like Josh Dobbs is having a significantly better season than Justin Fields. Not even close. The efficiency, the accuracy. Justin Fields, like the Bears are in, right now we're taking it on the teeth right now, but there is going to be a point in this season where everybody kind of wakes up nationally and is like, you know what? I would much rather be where the Cardinals are at because they control the offseason. They control the draft. Some of these teams in purgatory, like the Bears have these picks, but like they just used a first-round pick on Justin Fields. They just traded the 32nd or 33rd overall pick for Chase Claypool. Like Ossenford at least doesn't have a big shit stain on his resume like that. I mean, his biggest gaffe right now is not bringing Dobbs in the offseason, but he's not trading for Chase Claypool. I mean,
it goes to show as far as how tough it is as a general manager. I mean, you can pull off moves like Ryan Poles did, and you can be celebrated. But if you get the head coach wrong, if you get the quarterback wrong, you're done. It doesn't matter how much draft capital you have or how much cap space you spend in an offseason, how many people you bring in to get a fan base excited. If you can't play quarterback, if you can't coach, you don't have a chance.
I wonder if a certain assistant general manager from Chicago that opted not to take the Cardinal GM job regrets that. Does everybody remember that? I'm trying to pull up his name.
Ian Cunningham
was offered. He was offered before Ossenford this job right now, and he said, "Nope, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid in Chicago." As somebody in the chat points out, 8.5 wins is their over/under this year. Like what? All those people are going to be under the gun. This
under, yeah.
Sometimes you luck into a good situation. The Cardinals lucked in. Isn't it coincidental? The Chicago Bears passed on Bruce Arians. They were poised to hire Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians wanted to bring in Todd Bowles. They wanted to run their bullshit wide 9 defense, and they said, you can't have Todd Bowles. We're not interested. So the Cardinals get Bruce Arians. The Cardinals tried to hire Ian Cunningham from the Bears. He tells them no this time. They get Monty Ossenford, who puts together just a masterful draft, and offseason in general. Sometimes it's okay. We can be patient with these moves because the first move isn't always the right move, Bo Brock.
No, it's not. And if we were taken into the war room and we got a glimpse of both candidates, and the guy that was offered the job didn't have command that the guy that ended up with the job, that Monty Ossenford. I mean, that video is still one of my all-time favorites, watching Ossenford navigate the first round, trade down for 3, trade back up to 6. Just that gets you going. That gives you a lot of just fuel to get you through a tough season and into an exciting offseason in 2024.
As Jessica puts it, Monty knows what the hell he's doing. To have the foresight to trade down, to basically take advantage of a Houston team that I don't know what they were thinking with the Will Anderson move. And I like Will Anderson. He's got 1 sack in 2 games. And then to have the foresight, because a lot of people, including myself, like I loved Paris. I'm on the record. My co-host can attest to this. That's the player I wanted early in the draft. Maybe not top 2 or 3, but I really like Paris Johnson Jr. I didn't love at the time the move to trade what equated to a first round pick and pick what was it, 33, almost a first round pick to move up for him. You have to be certain if you're Ossenford for a team that needs all the assets and all the resources, that if you're giving up pick 33 after your trade down to go up and get Paris Johnson Jr., he can't just be good. He can't eventually turn into like DJ Humphries eventually. He has to be a top 5 player at his position. And his trajectory right now is the best first rounder the Cardinals have drafted since Kyler Murray and the best first round offensive lineman of my lifetime. That's what he is projected to be. I'm 35 years old. That's the best first round tackle, guard, center that they have taken since I was born in 1988. But not even close right now. His trajectory is all pro. And that guy did it his first draft, doubling down, dealing back in. I mean, you just love to see it. And it does. It gives you confidence he can do it again next April. We're getting it. Go ahead.
In deciphering and being able to scout between, people had Skoronski as the top tackle at some points. People had, there were other discussions around other tackles, but Monty knew, and he had his finger on the pulse of this draft and the direction it was going to go, and said, I got to get up back to 6. And he did, because otherwise that's what he was going to be left with. I don't even think they probably take a tackle if they miss out on Paris Johnson Jr.
Probably not. You're probably starting Kelvin Beachum, and that's a Band-Aid. That's not a building block. Deuce in the chat perfect transition. $5 super chat. Thank you so much, dudes. We appreciate the support. If we win with K1, what will all our first 2 picks be? I do not want Caleb. He's a drama queen all the way. Michael Harrison, Marvin Harrison Jr., yes. But what about another one? Running back? I think so. I think they're going to take it back next year, Deuce. Absolutely. This past year's draft class for backs was seen as the best in a while. That's why 2 went in the first, compounded with it not being a great draft in general. Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs going as high as they did, I think was a byproduct of how good they were, but how kind of weak that draft class was, Bo. But okay, so hypothetically, I mean, for them not to have to not take Caleb, they'd have to not have the first overall pick. Can we agree on that? Can we put that off to the side? Because I don't love Caleb's kind of psyche if he's choosing to not want to play for this team. But I do think if the Cardinals have the first pick, whether it be through their own pick in Houston, they're going to take Caleb Williams. Do you agree with that still 2 weeks in?
Yeah, I think that you have to have that tough conversation. No doubt about it. I mean, he's been tabbed generational. He's been tabbed more poised and a better prospect than a Mahomes, and put in the category of like the Andrew Luck and the Trevor Lawrences that were slam dunks, right? So you have to have that conversation from a business sense at the NFL level. In a cap league, you have obviously wear it for a season's time, dead money, but then you get the luxury of having a quarterback contract, for the rest of the way out. And then you have to pay the piper, and it's probably going to be $300 million right by then. But yeah, I see Cardinals up in there. Update Braylon Allen, from Wisconsin. Yeah, let's talk running backs. I mean, Rocket Henderson from Arkansas. You got Ohio State, Michigan have backs. I mean, it's going to be a deep class again. You've got 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, including 2 first rounders, 2 thirds, and a second. Third round would be a pretty money round for them to find their future running back. But at the same, on the other side of it, if you're just adding starters on offense and defense outside of the running back position and you wait, I don't mind that either.
No, and we got a long way to go before the season's over.
I want to do it now, though. I want to talk it right now because
he's going to be great. Let me ask you this. We weren't doing the show together when Najee Harris was rumored to go to this team 16th overall, and they almost took him. Had Zaven Collins not been available, they would have taken Najee Harris. I have that source, 16th overall. What were your thoughts on Najee Harris? Because he, in hindsight, it has not been a good pick for the Steelers. He looks really average. He's averaging under 4 yards per carry as a career. And I asked you that, Bo, because I'm like the kind of person, if I think he's a special back in the back hand of the first round, I'm okay with taking a running back. But man, it is such a crapshoot because you watch Najee Harris at Alabama, and he was a better player at Alabama than Jahmyr Gibbs was. But if you watch Jahmyr Gibbs, he's a better NFL player. That's the most difficult aspect, is watching a guy on Saturdays project to the NFL. Who was the best college player, who had the best statistics, but it's when we're at the combine every year and we watch those guys work out, they're looking for how are they going to translate to professional football. And it's hard. It's really hard. But were you in on Najee Harris in the first round that year or no?
I don't believe so. I don't know, and unless you have some hidden receipts that I don't know about. I don't believe so. I don't think I've ever been on team running back in the first. It obviously, and I'm not saying I was on the trend of anti running backs. As far as what they were going to be making as soon as they came in the league, and what teams are paying running backs, and where you can find value later in the draft, or you can find guys sometimes that aren't in the drafts. You're seeing across the league, and guys that are making an impact, you don't need to overspend your first round draft pick on a running back in order to keep and have an impactful and quality run game.
100%. I do think the Cardinals will take a back next year. How about this, though? This isn't a running back. Red Dog, $5 super chat. Bo Brock, quarterback. Drake Maye, he's a Tar Heel from UNC, is as good as Caleb Williams without the drama. I'll let you answer that first. Well, it's not really a question, but we're gonna treat it like a question, Red Dog.
I'm gonna say false. Is it a true or false question? Yes. I would say false. Caleb Williams is. I think there's a big gap between him and Drake Maye, but Drake Maye projects as an NFL quarterback, and he's got some things that you like. but he's not a generational talent like Caleb Williams. But look, I mean, there are people that love Drake Maye, and I can understand it. The size, the arm strength, the athleticism. And you look at what Monty Ossenfort, how just early insights into what he looks like from a quarterback. He loves the size. He looks like Clayton Tune, but a more polished Clayton Tune at the college level in Drake Maye. So, I mean, maybe I wouldn't be so shocked if Monty Ossenfort liked Drake Maye.
I don't want to watch Drake Maye. I have been this year for that reason alone. Could I fast forward and see a scenario? We've already talked about it. Like, they're going to work out Drake Maye, assuming they have like a top 5 pick next year through somebody. They're going to work out Drake Maye. They're going to be at Drake Maye's pro day at UNC. Cardinal, you're going to see that affiliation with the Cardinals. Like, they're going to be in that ballpark. Like, do I think they should take him? How does Kyler Murray look this year? Right? Is Drake Maye Jake Locker, or is he Justin Herbert? Right? Why can't he score a touchdown in 4 quarters against Appalachian State? People are like, well, it's a supporting cast. His running back ran for 200 yards that game. Like, I think his supporting cast is pretty solid. I don't want to hear about supporting cast at the college level when you're playing Appalachian State and people in the ACC. Caleb Williams, I was on the quarterback room with JT O'Sullivan. He does a great job, and he had a pretty hot take. We're trying to get the clip from it. JT O'Sullivan told me to my face that Caleb Williams does everything better than Kyler Murray right now. Now, I don't agree with that, and I told him that, but just think about that, the NFL evaluators that evaluate the quarterback position, I said, projects, and he said, no, he does everything superior to Kyler Murray right now. So, I mean, that's how people in the know that study film, that watch tape, are talking about this kid. And I'm with you. I hate the mindset of his father. I hate that. And it's not just because it's our market, and who knows? He could be talking about Chicago. He could be talking about another market too, but like, that's not my jam, right? But I asked JT O'Sullivan, well, what about Joe Burrow and what about Trevor Lawrence? And he was adamant that nobody has had the kind of leverage that Caleb Williams will have. And I do think that that's inarguable. I think he's going to have some leverage, but it would be a horrific look for the NFL for him to be able to pick his spot, because the NFL, where it is far superior than every other sport, especially basketball with the lottery system, is if you are bad, we're going to do our best to try to get you good ASAP. We're going to give you the first pick so you can change the fortunes of your franchise with your fan base. And if the Cardinals have the first pick this year, I would imagine that's going to be because Kyler Murray took some L's this year. Kyler Murray played 10 games and maybe only won 1 of them or 2 of them. I don't think that's going to happen, though. So long story short, I would not take Drake Maye today, but to Bo's point, I would not be surprised if they like Drake Maye.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to do their due diligence on him, but I think the debate comes easier, right? If you're staring down a future with Kyler Murray or Drake Maye, I think you move forward with Kyler Murray and you invest the draft capital in other positions.
Here's a really interesting point I just want to bring up quickly. Yeah. We're going to know that situation before the draft. Like, it's not going to be Kyler Murray's.
Oh, they're going to have to.
Right. It's either Kyler Murray's on this team or they're taking a quarterback in the first round.
They're going to have to make a decision before the new league year, I believe. I think as far as in order to eat the least amount of dead cap money, the decision has to be made before mid-March.
Yeah. I don't think we're talking enough about that. Like, the fact that they have to basically show their hand to the rest of the NFL. Like, he's either our guy, and you would assume they would announce that like at the end of the season wrap-up press conference, or we're going to trade him or move off of him. And I don't think they're going to lean that way, but man, like if they move on from Kyler, they trade him before the league year, or they cut him, God forbid, like they're taking one of these quarterbacks. They're going to do that. So that's why we have to talk about it. Man, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy that we're going to have an answer for this well before April. Then it just becomes, who are they going to take if they don't have the first overall pick?
Let's go back to our guy, Red Dog, another $5 super chat. Thank you so much with this one. I'm still a Kyler Murray fan if he's 100% bought in. And look, that all signs are pointing to Kyler Murray, JG, budding bromance. Those guys they're chatting together all throughout practice. Kyler Murray has shown everything that you want to see from a guy that is completely rebought into his organization that drafted him in the 2019 draft, #1 overall. Things seem to be clicking with him. I can't wait to see it kind of put into motion once he becomes healthy enough to get back on the playing field. And we'll see, we're 2 weeks into the season. That means we're 2 weeks away from, potential decision on Kyler Murray and him being eligible to come off of PUP.
Think about how bad the Cardinals were in 2018 and how good Kyler Murray looked right away. And then look at some of these rookie quarterbacks this year that are really having a tough time. Like Bryce Young is not in the same league as Kyler Murray was when he came out of Oklahoma. Not even close. Go back and watch that second half against the Lions, that game against the Ravens, that game against Atlanta at home, some of the throws Kyler Murray was making. Then go turn on Bryce Young, who not a comparable arm, not even in the same ballpark as mobility. Like, everybody loves to throw around comparisons and this guy's better and that. Like, Drake Maye today is not a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. Is he going to be in 5 years? That's the question Cardinals are going to have to ask. I've got a question for you guys. Do you guys know where you're picking your survivor pools? I'm going to tell you, it's with Splash Sports. It's the Pick X PHNX weekly survival contest for the NFL for real money. Super easy to get started. Go to splashsports.com/PHNX. Sign up in the link below. Like this video, by the way, and then deposit just $5 to enter. You can win big money and larger prizes every week. Weekly contest. So if you waited to sign up, don't. Get in there now. You can pick up where you left off. Want to run a contest? If you got some friends, do it. Tired of being a commissioner, chasing people down? You can be a commissioner through our link, and you're already in the running with a bunch of other people. So it's plug and play, baby. Head to splashsports.com/PHNX to join. We'll have different contests coming out. So again, super stoked for you to compete. Make sure, again, you're checking out the link in the show description, Bo.
Absolutely. And we had a great little kind of outing today with the crew over at PHNX. It was great. We were at the Majestic in Tempe, caught a movie there, watched one of the new flicks out there. Don't even remember the name, but the movie theater accommodations were great. And our guys were enjoying some OGs. I mean, just like you would eat some popcorn and some candy and some soda, some of the crew were popping some OGs gummies. They're delicious. And of course, they're going to put you in the right mood just for taking in a flick. Of course, you want to check out the multi-flavor bags, figure it out if you're a fruit or you're a cream guy or gal. Do you like the red apple, or do you like the cream, the orange creamsicle, or do you like the watermelon, or do you like the peach or the peaches and cream? Figure out, but they're all Hall of Fame flavors all in one place. Fruits and the cream, both that sunny sativa, that mellow indica blend, allowing you to customize your OG's experience based on your mood, time of the day. They've got the sleep time gummies as well. Check out our friends over at OG's Brands for yourself. Find out all their delicious flavors, their incredible product line, ogsbrands.com. Follow them on your socials at OG's Brands. Find them in your local dispensary. Got to be 21 years or older. Johnny, it was a celebration of PHNX being in the Valley of the Sun for 2 years. It was exciting. And we got a message from our guy, Frank Sanders, wishing us all the best of luck. It was great to see from one of the Arizona Cardinals' greatest wide receivers. A message from our good friend Frank Sanders. He's doing well. We will see him in the future at some point on future episodes of PHNX Cardinals. It was great to see Frank.
Frank Sanders, instrumental part of helping to build this show in the early stages. So indebted to Mr. Frank Sanders, number 81. Hope to have him back as soon as we can. Hope to have you guys check out gophnx.com, become a diehard. No better time. Pick up a free hat and or shirt with every single year-long membership. 90% of the content, unlike some of these competitor sites, is for free at gophnx.com. I put our content, written otherwise, against anybody. Check out Gerald Borges' Phoenix Suns preview that's right around the corner. 35 days, number 35 for Kevin Durant until the season opener, which is just crazy. And then our guy, Howard Balzer, the PHNX beat reporter, is crushing it. Rapid reaction article from Sunday night. Don't want to miss it. You don't want to forget to drop a like on the show. Listen, we're going to get through these tough times. We're going to do it with shows like this. You know, I may go back and read old articles that said Paris Johnson Jr. only had 14 surrender pressures and like 700 snaps at Ohio State. That's what's getting me through this season with the Arizona Cardinals. And hopefully we've been able to provide a little fun here. Again, mark it on the calendar a week from today, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. PHNX Cardinals Prospects, the debut episode. Myself, Bo Brock in studio. Draft talk, college football talk. I don't know, a certain Heisman Trophy winner visits the Valley this weekend. It's a lot of stuff going on, but Bo Brock, I think now we can truly enter Cowboys week with the Arizona Cardinals.
That's right. Talked to Petsing and Rallis, and they started breaking down the respective side of the football that they're going to see from Dallas. And Drew Petzing was basically like, I don't know if there is a solution to Micah Parsons right now, but he's somebody you're going to have to focus on as an offense. Number 11 is disruptive. And then you talk to Rallis, and he's looking at CeeDee Lamb. He's looking at Dak Prescott. He's looking at Tony Pollard. And that three-headed monster on that offense, it is going to be a tough week 3 opponent for the Arizona Cardinals. They're rolling right now. And you want to go to that game. We've got an opportunity to win a pair of tickets as well to that game. So make sure you're checking out. Damon, do we have the details on that we could throw up on the screen there's our ticket giveaway to the upcoming game at the Cardinals against the Dallas Cowboys. Drawing will be during the Friday episode of PHNX Cardinals on September 22nd. If you are watching the show, scan the QR code to sign up for our daily newsletter and be entered to win. So if you're listening to the podcast, go to the YouTube show, PHNX Sports, and you can find the QR code. You can get your ass to the game. It's going to be awesome. Big thanks to everybody tuning in tonight, Johnny.
You guys are fantastic. Again, Cards After Dark. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your night, your evening. Drop a like on this video. Let's share it around the YouTube metaverse algorithm, all that jargon, and follow Bull Brock on Twitter, would you? He's the best. Johnny Venerable here. Damon Dog behind the mic. Like and subscribe. We're back. PHNX Cardinals on a Wednesday. See you tomorrow.